it's a pleasure for those of us who have had the privilege of regularly listening to Dr. Louis Kasekende. It's always a pleasure and a privilege to hear what he has to say. So, another round of applause for a world-class Ugandan economist. Now, I noticed that at some point people had stopped writing, either because the presentation was too engaging or Dr. Lewis's English was a bit complicated. But before, now as I told you, we are live on TV, urban TV, so the urban TV people are comfortable. The viewers of Bukede TV and TV West have sent me a message to say that Oluzungu Lungi, we are missing something. So I will try as best as I can to translate Dr. Lewis's paper. Bannaffe abalabi abatulabira ku Bukede TV n'abamu abali wano manyi nti oluzungu luzibu. Ka ngezeeko okubavuunulira biki amyuka Governor wa Bank of Uganda byabadde annyonnyola ku byenfuna bya Uganda engeri gye bize bikulaakulanamu okumala emyaka 28. Atukakasizza nti ebyenfuna bikulaakulanye nnyo, sijja kubala nnamba naye ng'ebyenfuna biri bulungi. Era mmwe abanoonya wawe muyinza okufunira atuyitiddemu ngeri ki gye muyinza nsonda ki mu byenfuna awali ku ssente eziyinza okukolebwa. Ensonda esooka ya byabulambuzi oba abazunguli bakazaako tourism, n'olwekyo amawoteeri, amaloogi, mu abasoma ebyokusaavinga nga bawaita, abajime sekasi, mwe muli ku mulembe. Abazimbi ebyokuzimba, eyo nayo waliyo wetuyinza okufuna. Okuweereza abalala nga mu makolero, nayo waliyo ssente ekolebwa. Ebyobugagga eby'omu ttaka nga amafuta, nayo muyinza okusangayo obugagga bwe muba mwetegese bulungi nga mulina ssente zammwe. Ebyensimbi, banks, ebyentambula, taxi, baasi, ennyonyi, eyo yonna waliyo ssente. Kati gw'osalawo olina ssente zo wawo oziteeka. Oba onoonya mulimu ki ogw'okukola, genda osome ebimu ku ebyo. N'ebyobulimi mukyalimu essente z'okukolebwa. I think I have done a good job. So, bannaffe abatulabira ku Bukede TV, nja kugezaako nga bwe nsobola okubavuunulira kiki ekigenda mu maaso nammwe musobole okubeera naffe. So I think now that I have proved a much better Luganda speaker than many people, perhaps including Dr. Kasekende, it is now time for us to ask him a few questions, and Louis, I'll be coming back there to take the questions, so we'll take 10 questions. We'll ask 10 people to line up at the microphone, but before you do, I have a direct question to you. People sitting down and listening to the rosy picture that you have painted. I have parents who have come to figure out which skills their children should acquire. I have students who are trying to figure out which courses they should take, what skills they should acquire. There are people here who are in the beginning or the middle of their careers trying to figure out what they should do. So, do you think you can just I'm now turning you into a career guide, from a manager into a career guide. What areas should people be looking at for skills? If people want to change careers, what should they do? Is agriculture glorious again? That's my new passion. Can people now, after studying a degree, go and study to be a plumber? Questions to you, Louis.
This is always a very difficult one to answer. Because we have different capacities as individuals. I may be very good in sciences, and you force me to go into arts, because that's where you think the opportunities are now. Or I may be good in arts, and you force me to go into sciences, just because that is where the opportunities are. But I think what I see as a problem, and I think it is good some parents are here, is that we've placed a lot of focus on attaining the certificate. And you force the kids to choose the easiest subjects at O levels, A levels, for that great opportunity to appear in New Vision with 4 A's. And I think that is wrong. That is very wrong, and that has to be corrected. And when you read the subjects taken by some of our own children, you ask yourself, what is this person going to become in the future? 2 is always to go into education expecting government to provide you with a job. My advice to parents that those opportunities that we had when we left universities are few and far in between. We should now be training our people, not to go into the public, but first of all into the private. But more than that, people who can become innovative and create jobs. So don't go to university expecting that the day you leave university, you'll find a job. But let me also tell you something that was told to me by a friend. In fact, some universities also think likewise, that at times it is not the course you do at university. It is what you do after getting that degree. The degree opens opportunities, and you should take advantage of those opportunities. I have people who did philosophy for their first degree and have turned out to be great economists. I have people who started in engineering but have ended up in economics. Okay? So, and you can ask people here, you may find people who did fine art, and they are very good businessmen and women, not necessarily that all the economists are the best businessmen. So it is what you do once you acquire that knowledge.
Okay, you've had, I'll try and see if I've made out. So first of all, many of you can go and train to be hotel managers. You can train how to be cooks. I know 3/4 of you here can't cook. How many of you know how to lay a bed? Because there are rules of how to lay a bed in a hotel. But I'll come back to that. Questions, very quick, 1 minute each, and we go forward. Yeah. Introduce yourself, because we want to keep a record of who you are.
Good morning, everyone. Hazra Okem is my name. I come from an organization called Mentoring and Empowerment Program for Young Women, MEMPRO. I think Dr. Robert, you've heard about that. My appeal to you, Mr. Robert, is I think it would be wise if you conducted a session on expectations. Because really, I thought that would draw us closer to get a clear picture of, because when we hear the word PAKASA, we have different expectations. I don't know whether you took the trouble to get to know that. And the other thing is to Mr. Kasekende. Well, I felt like you were addressing the parliament or the president. So most of us here who are youth found your speech so technical to the technocrats, and we the youth are wondering, really, was this plot for the weekend? Thank you.
Good morning, fellow participants. Good morning, the presenters, Mr. Kasekende, and the host. By the names of I am Sibu Innocent. I'm a farmer. I would like to ask Mr. Kasekende, them as the Bank of Uganda, which measures have they put in place to help farmers? Most that most of these financial institutions, their interest rate is very high. And you know very well that farming, it is sometimes risky because of weather. So, Mr. Kasekende, that is your question.
By names, I'm Mayengo Richard, a mechatronic by profession. When I talk of a mechatronic, at national level, I'm a motor vehicle technician, national level. But international, I'm a mechatronic. Munzikirize nkozesa Oluganda kubanga Kasekende watugambye dda nti olulimi Oluganda abamu bwe basinga okutegeera. Njagala ne muzeeyi wange awulire ki kye njogerako. Kulu Kasekende otugambye bulungi sectors ezirimu chances z'emirimu. N'oyogera ku transport. Kati nganze makanika omutendeke. Sector eyo nungi naye ekyalina obuzibu bungi. Nti emmotoka nnyingi nnyo zijja ezimu nga nfu, ezimu zigulibwa nga za bbeeyi naye nga tewali asobola gikanika. So neweesanga nti omuntu agenda mu transport business n'alemererwa okufuna makanika omutuufu n'amuyamba okukanika emmotoka ye, business n'emusala. Awo ensabira Ministry of Education naddala vacation training eriyambe ekyuse mu siribasi yaffe. Erabike nga technology ali dynamic akyuka enkya n'eggulu. Bakyuse mu siribasi tulabike nga abantu tubasomesa technology omupya. Era kati nganze nasalawo okusomesa buli makanika free information gye mbawa about modern technology. Balabike nga basobola okukanika emmotoka zaabwe. Ensonga ey'okubiri, it is about oyogedde ku skill still. Siribasi yaffe nga bwemaze emyaka 3 mu vacation training tekyukanga. Naye olwaleero luno bayinginiya bayetaaga equipments ze batasobola okuoperatinga. Kyova olaba nti baleeta bayinginiya from abroad bajje bakole mu Uganda nga tulina abaana abagezi wano. Ensonga eyo Ministry of Education njagala egirowoozeeko ne gavumenti yaffe. Ensonga ey'okubiri eyokusatu ogenze n'otugamba nti nno Southern Sudan emu ku nsi ezirabise nti zitulwaniridde kituufu. Ogenze n'ogamba nti Southern Sudan efulumya bbalo 3000 tusuubira okufulumya bbalo 3000 buli lunaku oil waffe. Naye Southern Sudan efulumya bbalo ezisuuka 3200 buli lunaku eza oil. Kitegeeza ki? Nti mu kyo okulabika nga naffe tusobola okutuuka ku ekyo tulina ofuna abaana abasobola, siga nti mwana waani, naye omuntu alina amagezi asobola okugenda okusoma ekintu ng'ekyo okulabika nga oil tusobola okumufuna mu bungi obanga bwe kyetaaga. Ensonga ey'okuna.
I think let someone else.
Hi, I'm Clifford Benoni. I own a company called Clifford's Mega Machines, and we in construction. I have a question which basically is about consumer data. When I was starting my company, I found it a little bit hard because I didn't have enough information concerning my consumers. Now, the question is, what is the government doing, or an institution like what Dr. Kasekende heads, to make sure that there is information that goes out to people who want to start? Remember, this is a venture that most people probably won't go into because there is no money at the moment to do it, or it's not profit-oriented. Thank you so much.
My name is Henry Kisitu, and I'm working with a company called Blossoms 256. It is a consultancy firm. For the interest of everybody, let me turn the language. Nzomu ku bantu abadde ne businesses in South Sudan. Era nga wetwogerera kati nti business zaffe zonna zaggwerawo ddala. Kyenjagala okubuuza Mwami Kasekende. Government erinawo pulaani yonna kubanga kati gw'oliwo nga government okuyamba ku bantu bano kubanga okusinziira ku sente ze mwogera ze tubadde tuyingiza mu ggwanga lino mpitirivu, naye abantu kakati bali mu ggwanga nga talina na siringi 10 wadde ekijja mu mukolo guno. Ekyokubiri, kyenjagala okutegeeza Robert nti sebo omulimu gwokola gavumenti yeyina ogukola, so bandibadde bakubira ne mu ngalo, naye gukyali ku levo za waggulu nnyo kuba nti nno bye bintu byensomesa ndabika nfunyemu nnyo ku information mwami Kasekende gy'abadde atuwa, naye baganda baffe bangi nnyo wano omusomo ogwo gukyali waggulu nnyo tebannasobola kubaako kye bagufunamu. Twongere ogussaako wansi. Webale nnyo.
Ndowooza nange kankozese Luganda. Amannya gange nze Matovu Abdul Mulindwa okuva mu
Please speak into the microphone.
Okay. Amannya gange nze Matovu Abdul Mulindwa okuva mu Support Uganda Talent. Ekibiina ekikkiriza nti talent esobola okubeera employment diversification. Oyogedde ku agriculture nga opportunity eziri mu Uganda. Naye agriculture ina problem ya scarcity of land. Ate ne land eri faced with land wrangles ne conservatism by the landlords. Abo ba youth tuba tuvuddemu kuba tetuyinaawo ttaka. Partnerships tezibadde encouraged by government. So I want you to address the two problems of land wrangles ne conservatism by the people right now, the landlords prevailing right now. Ekira kyengamba abavubuka individualism teina gyegenda batwala. So long as muli self-centered, tetugenda kubaako we tugenda kutuuka okusinziira ku projection Mr. Kasekende z'akoze nti by 2030 tujja kuba 50 million. If 30 million right now tusobola okuba ne unemployment, how about when we are 50 millions? Thank you very much.
Okay, I think let's wait for the governor to answer some of the questions. Otherwise, it will be too long. So you wait. Daniel, please close it after that. Those are the last people. Yeah. Okay. Oh, yes. I'm going to answer the first question from the young lady about expectations. When I was growing up, they used to tell us as a reprimand, Nsumulula or Suna. So we have just started, and you're complaining about your unmet expectations. You wait at 2 p.m. If I don't meet your expectations, then you can criticize me. Louis was the first speaker. We have an array of people. Secondly, we don't have uniform expectations. We have to try and meet the various expectations. There are people here who are very young. There are others like me who have gray hair. So we will manage everyone's expectations. But also, if you as young people plan, and especially young people, if you plan to advance yourselves in life, which is what the purpose of PAKASA is, the one important tool you need, apart from everything else, is knowledge. So when we bring you people with knowledge, your job is to listen, internalize, and then decide what to do with the knowledge. Otherwise, you will be forever blind and not know where to go and find the opportunities. I understand that economics is not an easy subject. We shall break it down for you. Thank you.
Going back to that first comment, I share your frustration. And it is a comment we get whenever we go out and talk to people, especially in the rural areas. They have always given a feedback that we need to simplify the language. We need to be able to communicate in very many dialects. And we are trying our level best. We've now even created within communications financial literacy, meaning Bank of Uganda going out to the public to educate. Okay, so it is work in progress. We have also decided that we will have programs on radio and TV in different languages. But on this particular presentation, I interacted with Kasekende on this particular topic. I said, this is likely to be a very difficult presentation for me. In fact, I tried to simplify it, but I can, as a feedback, you are saying simplify it further, and I accept. Second question is on the issue of what Bank of Uganda is doing. And I want to underscore the issue of Bank of Uganda doing within its mandate. What can Bank of Uganda do within its mandate? And this is, again, a question people ask us. It will not be possible for Bank of Uganda to provide each and everything that is required within the agricultural sector. That is not our mandate. It is the mandate of other organs of government. But there are things that we can do. And sometimes it is even very difficult for someone to see the relationship of what we do and how it can benefit a small farmer somewhere in a rural area. But creating low inflation actually helps. The people who suffer most when prices are going up are actually the poor and the farmers. But the specific issue I think that comes up is the issue of interest rates, that when you go to a bank, the interest rates are 20%, 21%. Actually, you may find that banks are not best positioned to assist a smallholder farmer. It has to be another institution. It has to be another fund to be set up by government. But for a bank is also a business. They get deposits at 16%. They will lend the money at a rate which is higher than 16%. So they are not best positioned to lend to agriculture, where someone needs either a grant or low-level interest rates. That money has to come from elsewhere. But is there a fund now? Yes, there is a fund which was set up by government, but it's not a fund that is benefiting the smallholder. So we have to go back and think of ways of assisting the smallholder farmer. Waliwo omwami ambuuziza ebibuuzo mu Luganda ng'ayogera ku areas eziri mu transport. Ebintu byonna byayogeddeko nzikiriziganya nabyo. Omwami ayogedde mu Luganda simanyi wane nzikiriziganya naawe nti bwe tuba tugenda okuleeta emmotoka, okay, tulina n'okumanya nti zijja kwetaaga okuddaabirizibwa. Tulina okwetegekera ekyo ekigenda okubeerawo. Tulina okulaba nti nno oba tuleese Mercedes Benz oba Tata, tulina abantu betusindika basome bategeere emmotoka ezo engeri gye zikolamu basobole okuziddaabiriza. Nzikiriza naawe. Ekyokubiri kyoyogeddeko nti ne syllabus ze tukozesa mu masomero tetuyinza gamba nti zijja kubeeraawo myaka 3. Nedda. Tulina okulaba nti nno nazo tuzikyusa okutuukagana n'omulembe. Byombi bisobo byoyogeddeko mbikkiriza. N'ekintu kyoyogeddeko ekya oil, bwe tuba tugenda okufuna naddala abantu abagenda okuyamba oba kuddaabiriza birigs, olina okuba nga obisomyeko. So tulina okugenda okusoma kaakati kubanga tumanyi nti nno tugenda kutandika exploiting oil. Waliwo, someone else talked about information. And I think this is a point that is very frustrating for the business sector. As I indicated, it is extremely difficult to collect information from the informal sector. We do surveys. And you go to a shop and say, can you please provide me the information? Now, when we come to you seeking information, people are very suspicious that the information they are providing will be used for taxation. We've tried to educate that no, this is information we are collecting so that we can give it back as a public good. All the information collected by Bank of Uganda, once we summarize it, and I want to repeat this, that information collected by Bank of Uganda in the surveys, once we summarize it, we post it on our website, we publish it, and all these publications are free of charge. It is intended to guide people like you, but collecting information from surveys can be a nightmare. But I should also thank those who have participated regularly in the surveys by Bank of Uganda. Waliwo ekibuuzo ekikwatagana ku South Sudan. Bwe nabadde ntandika okwogera nakikoonyeeko nti abantu baffe abamu babadde balina ebintu bye batunda mu South Sudan. Okay? Abalala ng'omwami bw'atugambye baali bagenda okukola emirimu egy'enjawulo mu bibuga mu Southern Sudan. Kano akatabanguko akaguddewo, akatabanguko kano kabaleetedde okuva ku mirimu gyabwe ne bakomawo wano, ebintu byabwe bifudde, tukkiriza. Okay? Kyenvudde ngamba nti katusabe nti akatabanguko tekabeere ka kiseera kiwanvu. Tusaba ffenna. Naye ndowooza mulaba nti ne gavumenti ekoze bingi ku kintu ekyo. Ffenna tukiraba nti no, si Southern Sudan yokka. Tugamba nti tetwandyagadde katabanguko mu nsi yonna, mu nsi zino ezitwetoolodde. Ne bwe kabeera Kenya, mukyajjukira wano 2007, after the elections, there was disturbance in Kenya, and it affected business here. We don't want civil strife, we don't want unrest, we don't want fighting in any of the countries. Okay? So, nzikiriziganya n'omukulu oyo. Echa Mr. Mlindwa, I think that was the last question addressed to me on the land wrangles. Land has to finally, we must find a lasting solution to the land issue if we are going to transform smallholder agriculture. And titling, giving obwannannyini, okay? Chikoze mu nsi endala, it must be the way to go. It has to be sorted out legally and by our parliamentarians to find a lasting solution to the land issue. Thank you.
Louis, let me just add that the land question which people use, I think for me, at the risk of being lynched in this hall, I think is an excuse. I will ask the editor-in-chief that next Friday we republish the story of a woman in Nakulabye who, at the time we published the story, was earning 250,000 shillings, I think it was either a week or a month, from growing vegetables using jerry cans and mineral water bottles. So you may not own land, but you can own soil. Questions, go on, please.
Thank you very much. My name is Asa Anthony Okot. I'm a proud manager of San Antonio Events, that's an events for music system and events, and also a guild minister of internal affairs in MOBS. Now, Dr. Lewis, speaking about the Dutch disease, you talked about it being an apparent relationship between natural resources and the manufacturing sector, that's to say the agricultural sector. Now, we are looking at a scenario where in the future, definitely as the youth, we're all looking at exploiting the oil and gas. That's a very big natural resource that is apparently in Uganda being discovered. Our question is, what is the way forward as a planner at the strategic level for Uganda, in order to avoid a possible public outcry and a disaster to Uganda? Thank you.
I'm Samuel Sembatia, and I'm an engineer by profession. I want to ask, it can come from Robert or Louis. I don't know, with the population that we have for the youth here in Uganda, which I personally look at as a resource, I'm wondering what motivates the notion of Ugandans are lazy. Yeah? So whenever I look at Ugandans, I see people who really want to work, but of course they need empowerment, they need skills, but there are sections of people who constantly, it's consistent, I've heard it for some time now, who are saying that Ugandans are lazy. I think if you can also address this question, I think it can trigger youths to respond instead of react to the circumstances around them.
I'm Katifa Rashid. I'm a MOOP student. I'm doing Bachelor of Science in Finance 1. My question is, you talked about investment in agriculture and the other sectors such as industries and all that, but as a finance student, we learn about the financial markets and the Ghana Securities Exchange in Uganda. You didn't talk about that as in how can the local people or the natives of Uganda can invest in that market. So has the Central Bank of Uganda taken precautions to notify the people about that market in Uganda?
I'm called Katumba Isaac. My question is all about in interest. It goes to Dr. Kasekende. I picked interest in that question of supply chain because I'm a profession in procurement and supply chain logistics. You said that to develop in a business, you must develop a supply chain strategy. How does this help a small entrepreneurship?
Thank you very much, Doctor and Mr. Kasekende. My name is Steven Sebuliba. I'm a marketing and accounts developer at Evana Media Bureau. First is a suggestion to PAKASA team. That presentation was very good, but I suggest that we can as well back it up with graphs, pie charts, and illustrations that can be easier consumed by the audience. Now the question is, our economy is majorly growing. Okay, it's a service-based growth economy, but is this alone enough to ensure growth without a correlating growth in industry? And we sitting on a time bomb whereby our industrial growth is not growing at the same pace. We are concerned that at a certain time there will be so many services chasing too few markets.
There are two things that have impressed me. One is it was a difficult presentation, but many picked up something of interest. So that has impressed me. But the other one is listening to young people who have started businesses. It is nice sitting here and seeing young people, the youth as we call them, who have taken advantage of the environment and have started businesses. So the perception that Ugandans are lazy is something that we should not accept. We should not accept a label that Ugandans are lazy. But what we should also accept that there are Ugandans who, after their degree, were expecting a job and are now frustrated. Maybe not even just their first degree. There may be people, even those who are not highly educated, who are expecting a job, are looking for a job and can't find one and are frustrated. But we should not accept the label of laziness. Now, there are many questions which are of a technical nature. And I'll try my level best to answer them in very simple ways so that I can capture the public, not only the public here, but the wider public. Someone talked about a Dutch disease. But let me first give an example. If you win a lottery, assuming your income on a monthly basis is 500,000 shillings, you win a lottery, 20 million shillings. You go back home, sit with the family. You have many options, isn't it? One is to organize a party for the whole village. Yeah, you say, you know, we have never had a party in this homestead. Let us have a party. Let it take 2 million. I mean, we were not expecting this money. We have 10. We can have a party. Two is that the children might say, you know what, Dad, their shoes I've always liked, and I've never gone to a film. And you say, okay, consumption. But what is going to happen? It is going to be extremely difficult sustaining that level of expenditure. And before long, the 10 million will be gone, isn't it? So you might get the 10 million, but you will be back to the same standard of living that you enjoyed before winning the lottery, isn't it? So what is the alternative? The alternative is to say, you know what? We've been at a level of standard supported by 500,000 shillings. Maybe we can increase it a little bit, go to 600, but put most of this money in an investment that will give us a sustainable return. Okay, I'll give an example. Let us put it on a fixed deposit where we shall earn 10% every year. So you expect 1 million only as interest income every year. And that 1 million will then determine your consumption. Do you see that you are building sustainability in it? Okay. The other issue, that's why we always refer to the Dutch disease. Because you have this booming sector, the booming sector, it will increase the prices of resources. What does that mean? Where you might pay an engineer, say 2 million, this booming sector might come and take away your engineer at 4 million shillings. Now, the only way you can retain this engineer is by also matching the wage of 4 million shillings. So the tendency is that this booming sector will increase the costs on all the other businesses. Okay? So some of these businesses will collapse. If you are paying a transporter, okay, say 500,000 to move your goods between Jinja and Kampala, then you get this booming sector which is ready to pay even 700. Now, the only way you can get access to that transport is by also increasing the amount you pay to the transporter. So that is the danger. That is the real danger when you exploit natural resources. The costs tend to go up, and some sectors of the economy suffer. So I was asked a simple question: what is the way forward? Okay, what is the way forward? One is, don't consume all this money in one day, having a party, buying this, buying that. It is not going to be sustainable. Two is all the money you spend should be within the budget. Should be within the budget. Don't wake up in the morning, or you know, someone lost a relative here, so 3 million. So this roundabout is required so many billions. No. Let us have a plan. Let us have a medium expenditure framework. And everything we do should be in line with that medium expenditure framework. 3, put aside some money for the future. Where do you put it? Bring it to Bank of Uganda. We shall keep it for you. Put some money aside. Don't just increase consumption, okay? So those are simple things that we can do, and they are actually included in the oil policy. That's the good thing. We should thank our government for coming up with an oil policy that is in line with best practice. Someone talked about other investment opportunities. In my discussions with Robert, the question is, how far should I go in this presentation? As he said, Asumulula Musuna, okay? He will definitely come back with other presentations that will be more specific. And the areas that the gentleman talked about, investing in financial instruments, investing in equities, all those are things that one can look at. But I want to pick up the issue of mobile banking. And the numbers he quoted are correct. We now have very many people who are using mobile banking, and the mobile accounts are far higher than the number of accounts in banks. The question is, what is the impact of that on the commercial banking? My assessment, no. All the amount of money which is virtual, which is on the mobile phones, is equivalent to a trust account that is in a commercial bank. So the commercial banks are not going to lose out. Okay? They are not going to lose out. But in the future, this is going to become more sophisticated. You have people now who are holding savings on their mobile phones. You have people who are using mobile phones for paying. So we will look at all this, but for now, I don't see anything that is going to be very major. The supply chain that I talked about, as a business, you always need a very reliable supplier. You think of it. If you are selling beef, someone brings you meat for the first day, says, I'm going to give you more next week, and they don't come. Okay? I have heard of people who go to the supermarkets, promise to supply tomatoes. They supply tomatoes for the first 2 weeks. They run out. Okay? So you need reliable suppliers when you are getting into business. But my advice is that you should have also diversified sources of suppliers. In fact, that's one of the biggest problems we face, especially when we take on contracts, export contracts, that it becomes extremely difficult to satisfy these export contracts. So a reliable source of material is reliable, diversified, dependable, okay, is very important. The most important point which I want to end with is the issue of the risks we are taking. I said that most of the business is small scale, informal, family. Can that be the sustainable source of growth for this economy? No, no. That's why I said we must find ways of providing those incentives for manufacturing to attract investments into industry, because that is going to provide us, and it should be labor intensive, What we have seen is that many people now in manufacturing are adopting technologies that are saving labor. That's not what we need. We need manufacturing that is creating jobs. Okay? So you are right. It is a challenge, but we must focus on that particular challenge so that we can attract, especially private sector investment in what we call labor-intensive manufacturing. I thank you.
Before I let Dr. Louis Kasekende go, I want to tell you that the next group of people who are coming to talk to you, as I introduced earlier, there is Mr. Dokoria from Uganda Research Institute. He's going to tell you how they do their program on incubation. Same as Mr. Segawa from CURAD, who will tell you how they do agribusiness incubation. Mr. Samuel Kavuma, the chairman of the Youth Council, will come to talk about their fund, the youth fund. So I'm beginning to manage expectations as you criticized me. But also, I also wanted to tell you that our next, because you have pushed me into a corner now, our next PAKASA session will focus on the oil opportunities. So you be ready. I will tell you the date. Most probably the venue will be the same. But looking at the pressures today, I think we are quickly running out of space because the chairs are finished and people are still coming. But stay with us because we will find an alternative for you. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in thanking Dr. Louis Kasekende, who has set the stage for us. It will be very difficult for me to thank Dr. Kasekende, but I want to reassure you that those who sent written questions, we will forward them to Dr. Kasekende. He will answer them. We will publish his responses in the New Vision newspaper on Friday, and we'll also put it up online. And also his presentation is written, so we'll make it available to you online and in the newspaper. Dr. Kasekende, yes.
Now, there may be people who want to follow up on issues that I have said, okay? Please get in touch with our communications department. Get in touch with our communications department. We shall arrange with those people to see that their issues are addressed. And maybe I may also have the opportunity of coming back to explain certain things. I thank you.
I think let me just make it simple. Please register with our people quietly, and then we will forward what you want to follow up with the Bank of Uganda to the communications department, and we will call you. So that is simpler. So don't mob Dr. Kasekende as he leaves. So the communications department will get in touch with you. Thank you very much, Louis. Let's take a break for 5 minutes, and when we return, the group that is going to talk to us will be on stage.